Hello, everybody. Hi. So nice to see so many of you on here. I mean, we've got such an amazing international following about the Alberta Sturges 9th Countess of Sandwich story. And I have so much to fill you in on. So anyway, I just want to say hi to everybody. Do listen, remember what I always say at the beginning of these lives. They're so fun for me. I try to do them. I've been pretty consistent, apart from I think maybe 1 or 2 weeks that we're meeting once a week. And can you believe that we started this? I think it was December 31st. I think it was actually, or January 1st, one of those days, but it was either New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. So this has been going on now for 2 months. Today is the 1st of March. I'm sure you all know that. So pretty much, I think exactly, in fact, I can look back at that, but exactly 2 months since we started this, and we've really attracted so many people around the world. Well, I should say Alberta's story has attracted so many people around the world. So please, please, please do chat on the chat amongst yourself. And I do watch all of these back because so many of you are just, it's so wonderful just to see where everybody's tuning in from. It's fantastic. And yes, last week, the live chat, I was in the Muniment room, and it was and listen, it did all right, considering there are thick walls in this very old house. I thought the Wi-Fi did remarkably well in there. There were a few swirly moments, but they were short and short-lived. So that was brilliant. Now, this week in the Manor room, we have been doing electrics. So today's only Wednesday. So what's called kind of like the second fix of the electrics has been done. So the wires are in. They have been properly wired up. When I left on Friday, when I left the Muniment room on Friday, the holes for the sockets had been sort of cut in, and now they've been wired up. And I did just get a text message from Andy, who has been the sort of builder here. We call him builder here at Mapperton for 100 years. No, not really, but for a really long time. And so we trust him. He's been brilliant. And we start the painting next week. And I will be having a big hand in the painting. That is something that at least I do know how to do. Electrics and plumbing, not so much, but painting, yes, a little bit of sanding of the floor. And so I will be updating you on everything that's going on in the Muniment room. Be sure to follow me on Instagram as well. And I do hope that many of you did watch the American Viscountess YouTube sort of high quality production on Can I Solve This 100-Year-Old Mystery about Alberta? And we're going to come on that in a minute about how her nephew died while in her care, which is quite sad. So anyway, should I just get on with things? I think that I should. It's so fun to have so many of you here. I really look forward to this, and I hope you do too. Like, I get set up in here. Well, obviously, soon it's going to be the Muniment room where I'll be live streaming from, and we will have really good Wi-Fi in there as well. We'll be able to connect it through that properly. So yes, electrics updated. I wanted to update you on that. And the paint has arrived. So the paint company that I use, people have asked, the paint company that I use is Mylands, M-Y-L-A-N-D-S, Mylands. And they've been around since 1884. They are used in historic houses, in royal palaces, in museums across this country. They're brilliant, and you might even find a stockist near you as well if you're looking for them. So we will be revealing the I don't know where that came from. Sorry, it's been a long day, and I'm going to tell you about it in a second. We will be revealing the paint, not plant, the paint colors in 2 weeks' time. So, and they're beautiful, which is really, really exciting. So I want to get very organized here in updates. I have 2 huge updates today. And the first update is when I was clearing out the Muniment room, I think I mentioned last week when I was in the Muniment room that there were these huge tin sort of luggage cases, or tin metal luggage cases that were used, back in the day. And there were one stacked on top of each other, and they haven't been opened for, decades. I opened one up, and I knew right away as soon as I opened, they're big, they're about, a meter wide. And I opened one up, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, that's Alberta's handwriting. So we've known this for a while, that Alberta was somewhat an archivist herself. So she liked to take, for example, the 4th Earl of Sandwich's letters, very hard to read. Remember, he's the one who the sandwich is named after, and she would transcribe them, and she was a big typist, so she would type them all up. And we have a lot of her archiving around the 4th Earl, which is fantastic. But she also did that herself. So she did take quite a good amount of her letters, and she would then type them up herself, which was brilliant. But inside this chest, this huge chest, everybody, were packets. I've just brought a few out. Packets of letters, tied up, many of them, in pink bows, and the cover of it would have the Hinchingbrook letterhead with the coronet, because that's what their letterhead was then. And on the outside, it would be marked the date. It's her handwriting. This one is 1905. I mean, there's stacks. I thought all the letters that we had of Alberta, which are in the thousands, were in the archive room, in all of these boxes that you've seen around before. No. These letters, I believe, were very personal to her, and she bundled them up. This is 1905, the year that she married George. This, everybody, is 1901. And inside 1901, she's at Wartburg Castle. Whoa! So when I saw this, I was like, what? 1900 to 1901. Now, what really astonishes me, everybody, is inside this packet are 2 letters that she had written to Mrs. Ole Bull, and she was very close to her. And she lived this one was to her when she was in England. This one was her when she was in Norway. And she somehow, the extraordinary thing about Alberta is she managed to ask for letters back after these people died. So this is why we're able to piece Alberta's puzzle together. I mean, it's going to take longer. We don't just have the letters that she received, and then you sort of have to kind of figure out, like, what would she have written to them. We have probably just as many, if not more, letters that she wrote to others and then asked for them back. So this is why she would have asked for these letters back, because they were from her time when she was at Wartburg Castle. And that is what is fascinating. Inside here is another letter, and this one, and I'm going to read these. I'm going to read the best I can. This one was November 4th, 1900. She's at Wartburg Castle, and she's writing it to a dear Linsara. Now, I don't know who Linsara is. I'll have to look it up. I'm sure it will cover it. So we're going to look at that. Then, everybody, get excited. I'm excited because these are exciting. This right here, and I know that the camera isn't, perfect, but again, she has the piece of paper that sort of covers the letters that clearly mean a lot to her, tied up in a bow, and then she'll either put the date or she'll put what they're about. This one, Father Powell. I know you can't see it, but trust me, Father Powell. So 1905, Father Powell, and everybody, this is last. So stay on, because you don't want to miss what I have in here. You just don't want to miss this. You don't want to miss this. So when I opened up the chest, I was overwhelmed because I thought, oh my goodness, I have all of these letters. But it is also a lot more work, which is brilliant. I mean, she has everything. She has kept everything. And now it's really about piecing the puzzle together. I also found in that chest a folder, a leather folder, and inside of it were all the condolences from when her son Drogo died in 1940. He was a test pilot during the Second World War and died aged 32 in a test pilot drill. And he and the other co-pilot, and I was reading through that before I came online tonight, and it was really quite sad just to read those letters. One of those letters she had written and somehow got it back. I don't understand it. She must have written it and then typed it out to remember. So I think that's also the other thing. She wrote it, sent it, typed it out, and so she could remember, and she wrote it to Drogo's son, which would have been her grandson, and his name is Drew, and it was when he was really little. And she wrote saying, we lost our son, but you lost your father, and it is heartbreaking. I'll read that another time. Yes. So Father Powell, so what she's done, everybody, there are typed letters. Hallelujah. So I just get very excited when I see typed letters because it's easier for me to obviously transcribe. Now, I have to sit and go through these because a lot of them are in the 1920s. So this is a little bit later than when she was really studying with Father Powell. But what I do want to read for you, everybody, is she has typed up extracts from an address by Father Powell. And I'm just going to read just a little bit here, and it's 4 pages long. And it says, "What is your God? Who is he? There's an old portrait of God that I could show to you. It is, for that matter, rather covered over with secular dust. But I can brush away some of the dust for you and give you such a sight of God. If you will but look and ponder it, that will make your heart burn within you at the thought of having such a God. The picture is rather like an etching, like those pictures of the convent of St. John's House, only a few lines, like the pictures of the high altar, for instance, or the last end of the chapel. Just a few strokes and lines, but they show you the chapel better than the photograph would because they are only a few strokes. They seize upon the essential features so that the eye is not confused by a multitude of details. And so this picture of God is made up of 5 words. They give you a picture indeed. This picture is something more than an etching. It's a rich, highly colored picture. Really, it is an old picture, and you know it quite well. You will not find anything strange or anything new in it." And then he kind of goes through the 5 words, and it says the first word is that which I have already suggested to you, Father. What is a father? And so he goes through these 5 words. The second word is mother. Yep, so it's basically a mother that stands for the strength of love, stands for the tenderness of love. And she has these underlined, which is wonderful. So she has all of the words underlined. And I'm going to get to, one second, the third word, and he says it's almost hesitant to use it because it's used in such a flippant way. Can you believe it? Lover. So the third word was lover. And I thought that was really fascinating. And then I see the 5th word, one second. And the 4th word is husband. I mean, this is all, right? Then the 5th word is friend. Now, this is long. I'm not going to read it all online, but fascinating. And he ends with, there is the portrait of God. Now you know what God is like. This is the God who has called you into being, who breathed his breath into you, and you became a living soul. He is father, mother, lover, husband, and friend. How beautiful is that? So these are clearly letters and I think sermons, if you like, that she was interested in. Yes? But I am going to read a letter that Father Powell sent to Alberta. One second. I mean, there's a couple of them. So, and I'll read excerpts from that. But it says, this is May 22nd, 1914. So this is a little bit earlier. So we're just about to go into the First World War, right? So we've got to remember the time. And he's writing everybody from Mission House. We might want to research this. Mission House, Society of St. John the Evangelist, 33 Bowdoin Street. That's Bowdoin. So it might be, I would say Bowdoin, but Bowdoin Street, Boston, Massachusetts. So all of you out there looking to help me who Father Powell was, Boston, Massachusetts, Mission House, Society of St. John the Evangelist, 33 Bowdoin Street. Let's find out. He writes, my dear Alberta, and it's just one page, so this isn't too long. I am glad indeed that you ran upon the Burtons. It must have been an equal joy and surprise to see you and George. So they've run into friends, mutual friends. Now that you are carrying such a heavy load in the little Commonwealth, you will more than ever need your communion and your quiet time every day. So he's speaking about the load of the war, the war. And then, quiet, you really must guard that. And for me as a yoga teacher, I'm thinking, yes, we all must have quiet time a day, time to take care of ourselves. It says, you really must guard that as a fortress guards its well. And then do not allow yourself to bear the burdens of tomorrow. Sufficient unto the day is the beauty thereof, as well as the evil. And you must see and hear so many beautiful things in connection with such a work. No one ever sank under the burden of the day. It is when tomorrow's burden is added to the burden of today that the weight is more than anyone can bear. How wonderful is this? So don't overload yourself. And if you do find yourself so overloaded, at least remember that it's your own doing and not God's, who begs you to leave the future to him. For the rest, we have his promise. When thou passest through waters, I will be with thee. One has to learn from him to be as the angel who could descend among the miseries of Bathsheba without losing his heavenly purity or his perfect happiness. And we ourselves may often gain healing from troubled waters. Most faithfully yours, Father Powell. God bless you. So I think that is frankly quite wonderful. Oh, it's currently, looks like it's Victoria Residence condominiums. So this is fascinating. Are you ready for this? I'm going to read so this is really interesting, everybody. This is about a friend of theirs that passed away, but hear me out. Are you ready? Now he's writing 10 years later, 1924, everybody, St. John's House for Children, and that's at 181 Appleton Street, Arlington Heights, Massachusetts. My dear Alberta, before you get this, you may have heard of the falling asleep of our dear old friend, Isabella Gardner. May she rest in peace. Queen Isabella, as Betty called her when she first introduced me to her 22 or 23 years ago. And now her body lies like a queen in the Spanish chapel, as she called it, the little chapel to one side of the courtyard. This last year or two, I've been taking her the Blessed Sacrament once a fortnight on Tuesday mornings. I gave her her communion on Tuesday the 8th. Afterwards, she went out in the heat of the day, and it was too much for her. In the evening, she was quite ill, and one of the sisters of St. Anne, to whom she was devoted, came to her and stayed until the end. I saw her twice a day until the 14th. She was hardly able to express herself, but late in the morning of the 14th, she rallied a bit, and we were able to converse together. She wanted to live until Tuesday the 15th, so that she might make her communion again. But late in the evening of the 14th, it seemed evident to me and to her also that she might not outlive the night. So I brought her the Blessed Sacrament that night. She never rallied again, but lived on until the night of the 17th. And he ends with, I think of you all constantly. You dear, kind friends seem doubly, were it possible, trebly dear at this distance, and this fragile note, setting out now on its 3,000-mile travels, carries with it the warm, grateful affection of my heart. Oh, you're going to get the end of the nephew. So these are, things that letters that she kept close to her heart, and for good reason. Oh, it's really quite beautiful. All these letters. Oh, yes. So I will be reading through those. That's Father Powell, and I'm sure I'll find other ones as well. So I will find other ones as well. Now let's go to Wartburg Castle. Yep. So here we are, 1901, everybody. Woo. Now this one was a little bit trickier to read, so I'm kind of going to go between two letters. I don't know how she got these back, but she did. Here she is. So Wartburg, it looks like she's is in Freiburg, and it says, "Dearest Sarah." So it was that's right, Sarah Bull, and I've seen lots of letters from her. Such a heavenly letter from you, and I am feeling radiant. 3 exclamation points. And then she talks about a girl named Margot. Margot says, one shouldn't always hype up the work. It looks like sort of the work of people. Perhaps not. And anyway, I'm not going to read. This is about their friend Margot. So I think, but what I do want to read is the bit where she describes where she's at, because it's beautiful. Here it is. So she writes that she says, where should I start here? Yeah, here we go. Here in my little haven, I see many things, and I am glad of the quiet to think once more that in the open I did not understand. Then written clear, and have tried to cherish all the clearness of the small corners of the earth. I have tried to the richness that joins me. And so she, in this letter, kind of describes where she is. So clearly she's finding peace there. And then I'm just going to end with this one. This one was, here it is. It is so heavenly, and I am so happy that I want you to write me, which is quite sweet. And then she talks about the Black Forest and how close it is to her. So she talks about the Black Forest. So she's clearly, here it is, because of the forest. Life is, here it is. Then here, the life is so beautiful too because of the forest. And it's given her really, she takes excursions up the mountains, and she describes the wonderful foliage and the coloring of the trees. And then she compares it to the Hudson River. Our Hudson would scarcely dare to to something, it's rivalry, but you can see that she's saying there's no, it's the views of the Hudson River compared to where she is in the Rhine Valley is splendid, she writes. So that's, I think, quite telling as well. Again, I need to go through and transcribe these. So on to, that's right, Isabella Stewart Gardner Museums is one of the most amazing museums in her fabulous home in Boston. There we go. Thank you. Fantastic, everybody, for that. That is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. How old would Alberta be at 1901? So she would have been 24 years old. So I hope that helps you. 24 years old. So I'm just going to carefully, this is 1905, everybody, the year that she married Alberta. Still lots to uncover. And inside of it, I'm so happy. I haven't opened this up until I've been online. It says, letters written after George proposed and before I accepted, June 14th. Oh my goodness. How brilliant is this? Oh my goodness. So I think, everybody, this is going to be quite a task. These are a lot of letters here. And this is, we know that she wasn't sure on marrying George. And so I think that I need to read through these and go through this and see if, I mean, I wish I could do this right now. But she, obviously, this is all about when he proposed. And there's tons of them, everybody. Wow, there's so many. There's so many. Oh, this might be, there's one to George here. Maybe she's like declining him in his marriage. So this is May 30th, right before she accepts on June 14th. Let's see if I can just see. Oh, found it, everybody. Are you ready? Are you ready? May 30th, 1905. I thought it said, Dear George. And I won't read the whole thing, but are you ready what she says here? Be patient with me a little longer, will you? ? There you go. So there will be these, so that is May, everybody. So she is obviously questioning, is she going to marry him? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Oh, here, there's, yeah. So, and then we know that she accepted. So there are letters to George. She has all the letters that she wrote to George. I mean, absolutely brilliant, unbelievable. So this is their courting. I have all of their courting here, everybody. Unbelievable. Inside one of the letters that she's written to George, she has, it's an Italian painting of saints. It looks like the 12 disciples. So these have to be transcribed. Unbelievable, right? All of these. This is just incredible. She has, I have to, I mean, can you see how many there are? It's just shocking. I've got to go through them and read them all and figure out, this is interesting. Somebody wrote, will you pray for me? Okay. Everybody, that's a project. There's like 30 letters in here. So at least sometimes I can scan them and find a winner. And yeah, and she kept them. It's incredible. This is just incredible, everybody. Absolutely incredible. And in some of them, there's little pins, like little pins. One of them has an old, looks like a little penny that she's tied to it. I'll have to ask my husband about that. It's really quite fantastic. In one of the letters she writes to George, she says, she writes, come Monday to dinner, not Saturday. I think it is better. And promise me this, if you're too tired to come, you don't have to come. Okay, anyway, I've got to stop reading these because this is what happens to me. I get like caught. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to read all these. Okay, so these are letters that obviously will be transcribed. We have a huge community who, across the United States in particular, who have all volunteered to transcribe. And that is starting this Saturday. We have our kickoff meeting. So thanks to all of you who have transcribed. Do watch it later, Deborah. So the last, before I get into the big one, this is in the Jiffy envelope here, and it is the Whopper. Any from George to her? Yes, there are. Good question. There are some from George to her. So, and again, I've got to go through these. I'm just going to tie this back up. Now, the Whopper is in here. This is going to, I said, stay until the end because this is going to blow your mind. Well, at least it blew my mind. I was literally leaping up for joy. Yes, I will have so much fun reliving their courtship. I mean, can you believe she just saved all these letters? So little update, everybody, on fundraising. So we have, you all are incredible, generous, unbelievable donations. We have reached the goal. We've reached beyond the goal. So we have the scanners over there, which will go into the Muniment room. The Muniment room works has, as you know from last week, it has started. We've got the archiving supplies arriving once the Muniment room is finished. We have beautiful, crewel, hand-embroidered curtains that we've chosen. And that fabric, I think, is being ordered, like it might have been ordered today or tomorrow, I can't remember. However, some of you have DM'd me because we did reach that goal and we overachieved it. And again, all of the funds from Buy Me a Coffee go towards the Muniment room. Everything gets documented and goes towards the Muniment room. Some of you have asked, can I still donate? Because I'm not finished with the Muniment room and some of you want to donate and you want your name on the plaque, et cetera, you can. I've put up a smaller goal, a much smaller goal because we've completed the other one, a much smaller goal on Buy Me a Coffee. And let me explain to you that goal. That goal is, hold on. Ta-da. I wonder if you can't necessarily see, I wonder if I could, I probably can't turn this up, but because this is a historic house, it's a grade 1 listed building, and you have to be very sympathetic to the rooms. I can't, it wouldn't be right for me to furnish that room with reproductions of George III, George III wing chair, or a reproduction of a chandelier. And so we have put a smaller goal on there in order to restore the early Chippendale desk that we have found here at Mapperton. So we are reusing what we can at Mapperton to restore that, and the restoration on that. Remember, Chippendale, about 300 years old, and it is in serious need of restoration. The leather on top is all broken apart. So yes, I can actually read that, Jennifer. That's a good idea. I will share what I've written so far. So, and also a brass wing, we call it a swing arm floor lamp, but I think in America you call it an adjustable one. So getting a swing arm floor lamp. Also the recovering the Queen Anne chair, which I picked up today. So I did find proper Queen Anne chair. and recovering that with proper, let me just look at the list here because it's much easier when I see it. There we go. And the curtain pole. Now, the curtain pole I do now, oh, and the chandelier. I think I mentioned the chandelier. The chandelier, I did put it on Buy Me a Cup of Coffee, but it's not the right one. We went to see it and it's not the right one, and we found one, and the chandelier that we would like to get is the same chandelier that we have in the dining room, and the same chandelier, a smaller version with just 6 points on it, and the same one that we have in the church, so that you have continuity going through the rooms, and a beautiful brass chandelier. So and then the other one was a curtain pole, and it can't just be like a reproduction curtain pole. Now, I know that I said on Buy Me a Coffee, the mahogany curtain pole. Well, I went all the way to Devon today to see it and planning on purchasing it. And unfortunately, the diameter was 8 centimeters. It was too big. And the finials at each end were 25 centimeters. They were huge finials. And it was just too big and thick. It was the right size from one end to the other end, but the internal pole was too small because the finials on either end took up, if you think about it, took up 50 centimeters from that. So we are, those of you who do want to fund, that is on, that is there. So there you go, if you're interested in that. Yes. Now, there are thousands of letters. That's exactly right. Yes, and of course, we're trying to restore furniture where we can, but we can't always do that because there's furniture here that's that needs to be in other rooms, and we have to get the right type of furniture as I'm trying to properly sort of tie this up. Now, I'm going to go into the Whopper, and then Jennifer has asked, will I read a little bit from my dissertation? Yes, I will. Absolutely. So here we go. Let me just tie this up carefully, very, very carefully, everybody. Because these letters are, wow. That's that, that's that, that's that. Oh, here, I'll put it here because I don't think that works. Okay, I think that's where, hold on, everybody. All right, here is the Whopper. Okay, everybody, this is what you've been waiting for. You might have seen it on Instagram. I did a little bit of it. Okay, so this was hidden in a corner in the muniment room, stuff all around it. Pull out a Jiffy envelope, and lo and behold, everybody, it's a recipe book. And when I saw it, I thought, this must be Alberta's recipe book. It must be her cookbook that would have been used at Hinchinbrook, because she was a typer. She typed up everything. Everything is typed up. Everything is typed up. And I thought, how am I going to tell, though, if this is her cookbook? Because it was passed on, and I'll tell you how I know it was passed on. There's 2 reasons how I know. So first of all, should I just get into the recipes? You guys, it's beautiful. I will publish this. It's unbelievable. She has the stock pot, consommé, to darken stock. Then she's got a whole section on soups, German pot au feu with beef, potage brunoise. My French is terrible, sorry. Potage bonne femme. So she has about 10 soups right here, 10 soups. Then she's got fish, whole thing of fish. Fish, she has about, it looks like almost 20 recipes. Lobster or salmon cutlets, sole au vin blanc, filet of sole, cordial, Normand, Deauville. She has, sorry for the bad French, she has turbot, so turbot à la crème, sole à la prevoyante. That's my Italian coming out, sorry. And then she also has vegetables, tons of vegetables, haricots blanc, tomatoes au plat, soufflé tomatoes, salad of tomatoes, mushrooms, chestnuts, petit pois à la française. Then she has, the sauces are incredible. There must be 30 to 40 sauces. Mayonnaise sauce, tartare, poulette, Italiane, orange sauce for cold meat, orange sauce for sweets, mushroom sauce. Then oh no, there's more sauces, sorry. There's a brown thickening, a marinade, a roux sauce, of course, a liaison with egg yolk, and truffles, vinegar. So there's about 50 recipes. Then she has meat. This is unbelievable. Filet of beef, chaussure, leg of mutton, oxtails à la bourgeoise. I'm terrible at French, so yes. Kidneys au gratin, veal kidneys broiled. Then she has poultry and game, probably about 20 recipes. Puree of chicken, pollard de gourmet, partridges viennoise, casserole dishes, duck au cercier. I always want to try to do Italian here, but I can't. Quail sousla, it's French. Then she has eggs and savories. I'm going to get to the best one, everybody. Eggs and savories, omelets, anchovy butter, green butter, cocoa from nibs, fried almonds. And then she's got curry from Lord Clive. So she does have some recipes here there's more, everybody. There's entrees. Gnocchi all'italiane, at least I can pronounce that. Risotto, macaroni all'italiane. Then she's got sweets, eclairs, mousse de chocolat, chocolate pudding, chocolate cake, sabayon, nut tart, gâteau, lemon pudding, souffle pudding, Munich pudding, iced coffee, orange sauce, coffee sauce, chestnut cream, lemon souffle. Then she has drinks. I mean, this goes on. So if you're asking how many recipes there are or how many there are in total, it's really hard for me to tell, if I'm perfectly honest, because the numbering gets a bit strange. So I'd have to total them all up, but it looks like we're at about 150 recipes. Can you believe that? So and then she's got the best, she's got drinks. And this one I want to read is Prince Regent's Punch. And I'm going to read you this in a second. And then she's got odds and ends. So she's got beef tea. She's got bread jelly by Sir H. Halford. For chilblains and all sores. Cure for wasp stings, midge or flea bites. This is a Bible. Ginger beer. It's incredible. So I'm going to read Prince Regent's Punch. Yeah? Because it's quite extraordinary. And then I'm going to explain to you how I know that this is her book. Yep. 2 ways. So then I know it's hers. And then you're going to be like, yes, it is hers. Okay. So 1 second. Let me get Prince Regent's. She has Sir Henry Halford's bread jelly. There it is. But the Prince Regent's is quite sweet. 1 second. It's coming up. Here. The Prince Regent's Punch. So she gives the recipe. I'm not going to give what the recipe is, but she writes this. This recipe was given to me by Mavita, the old butler at Uxbridge House. I've looked it up. It's in London, and it must have been a grand house, who had it from the steward of Carlton House. Again, it would have been a big grand house. It was the custom at all the Prince Regent's visits to Bow Dessert. It says Bow Dessert, so I'm not sure what Bow Desert. And indeed, at all the houses where he stayed to prepare this punch for him, he frequently preferred it to wine. So you're asking, does it have alcohol in it? And it does. So it has. It says add these to the other ingredients. So you can add some champagne. You make it in a bottle of champagne, and you add brandy and rum, and then it says and 2 of maraschino and 2 of Arrack, Arrack, and it says place this in decanters and ice it thoroughly. So it was a cold drink. Those of you coming on grand historic tours here at Mapperton, we have a black tie dinner, and we will be here in the house, and we will be creating, we've decided, Luke and I, we will be creating some of these recipes. Now, I'll also be creating these on American Viscountess and making videos from this as well. So hold your horses, everybody. So Faye has asked, it's a really good question. Are they in American or English measurements? And they're not necessarily in any measurements. They say things like 2 tablespoons, 4 or 5 bay leaves, 6 or 8 onions. But what I will say is that when you go through this, she had taken these recipes. These weren't her recipes that she created. So these would have been recipes that the chef was maybe doing at Hinchingbrook, or she found from recipes, things like that. So I can't tell if it's American or English because a lot of it, as you can already tell, is that they're French recipes. Now, how do I then know it's hers? You're thinking, well, wait, this could have been anybody's 100 years old. Well, this is the giveaway. Page, she puts 40, looks like it's sort of 40.5. And it's a newspaper article that she cut out, and it's from an American newspaper. And it's an inexperienced American cook cooking with an English cook. And it's all about frying. And it says, and it's so American. Anybody can fry, says the inexperienced cook with the scornful assurance born of ignorance. Well, I have no wish to controvert the statement. Perhaps anybody can fry, but not everybody can fry properly. To begin with, as I am never tired of saying, the fat must actually boil, if the frying is to be successful. And then it says, now, the majority of cooks seem to think that when lard or dripping, as the case may be, has melted and is bubbling away, the boiling stage has been reached. Quite the reverse is the case. She goes on. And then it says, another rock on which English cooks when frying. So she said, I watched an English cook who recently entered my service at her first attempt at frying. This is how she went to work. And it's quite comical. And she sort of quotes her saying, no, saying she can't do this. And so she's talking about an English cook. And then she writes, my readers, remember that frying, to be really successful, must be done in deep and boiling fat. And then the rest is easy. So that's one. And then the other one is, everybody, this letter that was found inside of it. So it says, here it is. And it was written to my father-in-law in 1977. So somebody had borrowed this. And it says, Dear Johnny, from time to time during the past 5 years or so, I've taken out this handy Hinchingbrook recipe book, reread it, and thought I simply must return it to you. So here it is. It's such a nice collection of recipes, so well written, and so obviously by someone who 150 recipes. And then it says, by the way, and here's how I know. By the way, I believe you told me that you thought this book might have been the work of an American capital L lady. Yep. So that's how I know. And then my father-in-law says, yes, it was Alberta's. So that is the recipe book, which will be published, everybody, at some point. Well, I've got to get my dissertation done. So I'm going to end, everybody, with my dissertation. I'm going to read you just a little bit. I'm turning it in this weekend. Not turning it in, sorry. Turning in my 3,000 words this weekend because I will be asking for an extension because of the volume of letters. Here it is, the volume of letters. There is no way I can get my 25,000 word dissertation in by September 2023. I've already spoken to my course director about this, and I will be getting a year extension, which will give me ample time to kickstart and follow through with this virtual volunteering project, and obviously the in-person volunteer that's coming from Cambridge to make sure that we transcribe properly Alberta's letters. Also, the digital solutions that are happening. I had a huge meeting last week, quick before I read the huge meeting last week with a wonderful, amazing transcribing collection company based very close to here, based in Wiltshire, They are called AM Digital. They're owned by Sage, and they have a fantastic sort of branch, Cortex, that helps to transcribe letters. I have a meeting with them on the 27th of March, and we will be hopefully working with them to build this collection site, and we'll be curating our own, if you like, our own digital exhibition. Speaking of exhibitions, yes, our plan is here that we will be doing eventually, once this happens, probably not till next summer or next year when we're open, an Alberta exhibition, and which will be specially ticketed, and you will then be able to view the Monument Room as well. So another reason to come over to Mapperton. So here we go, everybody. Right now, my 3 questions are, it's always, and these might change, right? So in my dissertation, I'm trying to answer 3 questions that from the beginning intrigued me about Alberta. First, what impact did the death of her biological father when she was age 17 have on her? Second, what prepared her for an arranged marriage into nobility? And third, did her mother's own social ambitions force her to sacrifice the path of nunhood and service to others that she truly wanted to take, or that I believe she truly wanted to take? So those are my 3 questions, and this is just the beginning. All right, if everybody, if you want to grab a cup of tea and listen to this, it's not too long. I start out by saying, during the turn of the 19th century in America, there had been an ever-rising interest of religions outside the realm of Christianity due to writers such as Thoreau and Emerson in particular. America was changing. The passage of the 13th Amendment after the Civil War's end in 1865 ended black slavery once and for all, and Hinduism and Buddhism had gained much attention in the 1880s. In the 1890s, even some Christian denominations were developing a more liberal spirit. Charlie Bonney, an American attorney, thought that now was the time for the great religions to meet on neutral and friendly grounds, and alas, the Parliament of Religions was conceived and held inside the Hall of Columbus in Chicago, September 1893. Tuesday, September 19th, 1893, the Parliament of Religions was in its 8th day of sessions, and the speaker everyone came to hear was Swami Vivekananda, a young Hindu monk. He had spoken briefly a week earlier on the opening day of Parliament, whereby he simply addressed the audience as sisters and brothers of America, to a rapturous applause which had lasted several minutes, for this was Swami's first entrance on the world stage. Swami Atalandu, the first non-Indian monk of the Ramakrishna order from Amsterdam, the Netherlands, who had come to hear Swami Vivekananda speak, wrote, "Here was inspiration indeed, a heart laying itself open before the world. Here, in half a sentence, the culture of an ancient race expressed itself. A world soul had touched touched the noblest strings, the finest, noblest strings of the human heart. The words were few, but the man stood revealed. Here was a master who had revealed man to man, who with one stroke had cleared the mental horizon, who had brought to the surface what is best and noblest in man, the recognition that we are all children of one parent, and that very parent whose blessings had been invoked at the opening of the session." And then I kind of go on a little bit, and I'm not going to bore you with this, but I obviously have to talk about Swami Vivekananda, where he was born, who he was, So I give a good brief on Swami Vivekananda. And then I go into, and I'm going to read just one more, I'm going to go into Josephine. Josephine, who was Alberta's aunt, who really became, I think, that mother figure to Alberta, and especially her path and possibly going down the nun route. So what I've written here is a little bit about she met Swami Vivekananda, and then I'll start here. Cultured, idealistic, and a great lover of humanity, Josephine MacLeod never married nor was interested in marriage to man. After meeting Swami Vivekananda in 1895, she followed him until his death on July 4th, 1902, and thereafter for 47 years until her death in 1949. She generally spent 6 months in America and 6 months in India. A world traveler who encircled the globe by ship many times, meeting famous people all over the world, yet preferred to live in simple surroundings so that more of her money could be used to serve others. She made friends with the kings of the world to the beggar on the street. She once wrote, "I'm radiant and happy, and I don't want anything on earth but a few more people to love." Independence was in some respect forced upon Jo. Having lost her mother, Mary McLeod, in 1870 due to an appendicitis, Jo, age 12, didn't experience the pressure that families, and in particular mothers, put on their daughters to marry. 19th century girls often married during their early to mid-teens, but without a mother to encourage Jo to marry a doctor, lawyer, minister, a senator, or train her to sew, decorate, and manage a household, pour tea properly, be a good listener, and write thank you notes, Jo stumbled into a life less traveled by women, a life of freedom and detachment. Jo was the youngest of 5, 3 sisters and 2 brothers. The eldest sister Mattie, died 1 year after Josephine's mother died, and 2 brothers felt no responsibility for their sisters, while their father, David McLeod, was alive and well. But after Mattie's death in 1872, Jo, now 14 years old, and her remaining sister, Betty McLeod, Alberta's mother, now 20, left Chicago and went to live with an aunt in Brooklyn, New York. Just a ferry boat ride away from Brooklyn was New York, the hub of America's culture, fashion, art, concerts, lectures, and wealth. For the 2 sisters, everything that mattered was in New York. In 1875, Betty informed her father that she wished to marry William Sturges. However, before her father would give his consent to her marrying William, a widower, this is Alberta's father, 30 years older than she, her father sent her off to Paris to see and experience more of the world before giving his blessing. She remained in Paris for 1 year, but nothing is really known of her year abroad. With William and what society today would define as an entrepreneur back then, she found a fast-paced, unpredictable life which she craved. By the time William and Betty married, the 2 McLeod sisters had been together all their lives. They were each to each other the most important, enduring, and intimate relationship, and therefore, without question, where Betty lived, so did Jo. After a brief stay in Chicago, where they both came from, and the birth of their first child, Alberta Sturges, on September 17, 1877, William and Betty eventually established roots in New York City, where their second child, Hollister Sturges, was born June 14, 1879. But they were seldom in their New York home, as they, William, Betty, and Jo, the aunt, and children went everywhere. "Can you and Jo and the children sail tomorrow and let the house?" Mr. Sturges one day asked his wife at lunch. "Of course," Betty replied. The next day, they sailed to France for what was to be a 6 weeks trip that turned into 6 years. And then I talk a little bit more about how important Josephine was to Alberta growing up, and who they sort of socialized with. And then I get into the death of William. This is just the introduction. Then Betty, less than 1 year after William died, and I'll read it maybe a little more to you guys next week. She married Frank Leggett, which would have been Alberta's stepfather. So how I've kind of ended it, as in it's not done yet, was during the turn of the century, more American mothers and daughters crossed the Atlantic than ever before, including the newly married Betty Leggett and her daughter Alberta Sturges. Queen Victoria had died January 22nd, 1901, and the Prince of Wales would soon be crowned king. Edward VII had many American friends who had either already married into the aristocracy or were socializing in those circles and on parade during the seasons. The importance of the American community in London was also a market by commercial venture when an enterprising publisher began producing Bancroft's Guide to Americans in London. The 1902 edition gave names, addresses, and titles of the men and women who were considered the American society in London. Alberta's first season in London was in 1902, when her mother rented and later bought a house in the heart of Mayfair, 12 Bruton Street. So that, everybody, is a little bit about on my dissertation, and I hope you really enjoyed that. And I skimmed through it because it's 3,000 words. I don't think you wanted to necessarily listen to that. But thank you, Jennifer. Yeah, she came from a very adventurous family. And it's a good question, Teresa Ann. I'm not sure if it was an Anglican nun or a Catholic nun. There's various letters that make me think either or. I'm just not sure. Thank you all so much. Really, really appreciate it. And I will be back here next Wednesday. So I'll be back here next Wednesday with more to uncover, and hopefully I can give you another sneak peek into the Munimit room, so that you can see what we're up to then. So I'm just going to remind those of you who do still want to donate to the fundraiser. It was nice to hear the whole thing. I agree. Maybe I'll do a reading one night. Right there, buy me a coffee. I went yesterday to the post office and today, and I'm going again tomorrow, and sending out those of you some of your goodies, your American Viscountess notebook, your pen, your key ring. And yes, so do check out just that smaller goal for Billy. Yes, Billy. So we have, should I save that one for Billy? I think I'm going to save Billy, everybody. I'm going to save Billy till next week because I want to have the book here that I want to read for you. And I want to read the death certificate. I've just ordered Billy's death certificate. His name was William McLeod Sturges. So the McLeod came from, obviously, was his mother's, was Hollister, Alberta's brothers, Hollister's mother's maiden name, Betty McLeod, who I was just talking about. So there you go. So I think I'm going to save Billy until next week. And wouldn't it be fun also just to do a little live sometime of maybe cooking the recipes? I think that would be quite fun as well. So we'll see where we get to. My plan is, if you guys want to join me once a week, I'm going to be on pretty much every week, once a week, going through what I found. But what's going to get even more interesting come April, everybody, is once we start to transcribe these letters, we will be reading out some of these letters to you. And I think that is going to be what's fascinating. The letters that we start with, we're going to do them in chronological order. So they will start from the earliest letters we have from her diary in here. So yes, so we will be doing them in chronological order. I'm not going to be reading you letters from 1942 and then one from 1919. We're going to start them from the beginning, and we'll read out ones that Lucy and I feel are really poignant and can give you a real flavor of where she was. So yes. Oh, thank you, Naoki. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Donna. That's so nice. Brilliant. Until next week, try to do it every Wednesday. Sometimes it'll be 5 o'clock my time, sometimes 6, a little bit later tonight, 7, because I was, I'll tell you where I was. Those of you who follow Mapperton Live, I was out looking at the eagles. Yes, the eagles that fell over, the 18th century eagles, and in the, whoa, that's a whole nother video coming out later. Wait till you see. I almost cried, actually. It was quite sad, quite a sad sight. They're really in bad shape. Anyway, thank you all. Be sure to like, be sure to follow. You guys are amazing, and hope to see you next week. Bye, everybody.